Hi, and welcome to Spooky Hours. My name's David Saunderson, and we're back again with Beth Darlington from Access Paranormal. How are you, Beth?
I'm good, David. How are you?
I'm good. It's quite warm tonight, so I think we're both a little bit sweaty. But this is England, so it does get hot at some stages of the year, especially when we're in lockdown. So anyway, we're coping well. Now, question for you: about a month ago, you wrote an article for Spooky Owls where you spoke about is it necessarily to protect yourself when going into a paranormal investigation. Now, you spoke, and we'll put the link in the bottom here next to the subscribe button. To people could read that what you said, and you went through the different methods that people use to protect themselves spiritually when going into a paranormal investigation, and the reasons for that, and all that. Now, at the very end of the article, you said you don't do it.
That's right.
You do. So, tell us about that. Why do
Yeah.
you not? Why do you not protect yourself when you're going into a place with unknown forces?
I think it comes from what your belief is before you go into that place of unknown forces. I grew up in a family that were very open-minded, very skeptical parents, and one which wasn't any sort of religious belief brought upon me, I guess you could say. So when I'm growing up, my mum said to my sister and I, whatever belief that you want to have when you're growing up, that's what you want to pick, that's fine, but I'm not going to sit there and say that you're technically, traditionally, I'm Anglican, but I don't absolutely identify that at all, because I'm definitely not practicing, that's for sure. It's probably the opposite half the time in life. But it's been having that experience, I think, has allowed me to be an open book when it comes to possible paranormal phenomena, because I'm more open-minded about other faiths as well. So I find that's probably best for me to not be as resistant to it. I also I investigate with a non-belief base as well. So when I say that, doesn't mean I don't believe in an afterlife. There's a possibility of one, but I investigate with the possibility of the fact that I don't go in with a religious ideal of any. So I'm there to investigate phenomena. I'm not there to investigate whether or not someone's belief of an afterlife is possibly there. I'm looking at the little bits, parts of it. Of course, it's a very different ball game when it comes to being in an old historic home and it's a public event. It's a very different game there. But when it's private and residential cases, I don't believe that you should bring in any of your own religious beliefs in any way, shape or form. But obviously, it's important to understand what other persons are. So with that, when it comes to protection, I believe as an investigator, I want to experience what's going on. And if I go into a location to me, if you go in and you say, I need to protect myself, I need to make sure I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to white light myself and make sure I'm safe, I'm already going into a location with a fear base. I'm already fearing what could possibly happen. Now, we are so suggestible as individuals when it comes to confirmation bias. Being aware of it's one thing. We're Swiss cheese with our minds. We're not going to be able to fight back on it all the time, but being aware of it is one thing. So actually going into a location and having that fear of something possibly happening and having to protect yourself already, to me, changes the possibility of the outcome afterwards. And like I said, I'm there to experience. So if I get taken over, I get taken over. I'm there often, usually 99.9% of the time, I'm there with people I trust. But again, it's an experience thing. If there's something that it's happening to somebody, if it happens to me, then I'll have a better understanding of what's happening to them. So I think for me as an investigator, to protect myself, I don't do it. I choose not to do it. I'm for myself. Of course, as you know, a lot of people will say, well, what do you suggest for me then? It's like, well, it's what you want to do. It's individually, it's up to the individuals, just as much as religious belief is up to the individual. For me, I won't go into a place and spiritually protect myself at all. But I also don't go in and say, game on, there is a balance, I think, and it's a level of respect and intent, and obviously the location and your reasons for being there.
I suppose it does affect the style of a investigation if a person goes in with either I want to say an agnostic or a atheist type of way, as opposed to because you have some people that go in very, I'll say the word Christian, as in that they're being blessed by by Christ or by Mother Mary or however they might do it, and then there's other people that use maybe more shamanistic or different other ways of doing it. I mean, it must. I don't want to use the word color, but it does. It colors the way that you're looking at whatever this entity is.
Yeah.
Do you think that's right?
Absolutely, you've already come in with a filter of some sort, and that's okay. That's all right to have that filter, but being aware of it, but don't bring it into an investigation. That's the biggest thing. It's you've got to be as clear and as a slate as you can when you're looking at this particular type of phenomena, because we are just so suggestible. We're built to protect ourselves. That's how we're built. That's how we got here. That's how we got through, our caveman days and saber-toothed tigers, is because we have an innate ability to make sure that we protect ourselves. So, yeah.
Have you ever seen any kind of people doing, have you seen the results of people doing a spiritual, like protection that has worked out badly or worked out well? Like, have you seen any results from whether they do it or not?
I have seen good and bad of both. I've seen somebody who's very gruff Australian guy in a particular location in New South Wales, is salt of the earth kind of gentleman. You think, no problem. And he walked in like, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to be fine. Called out, and this, because this particular location was a jail, he was able to kind of be a little bit lucid with his language, if you get what I'm saying, and was doing swearing, provoking, that kind of thing, which is again is a very hot topic with regards to paranormal investigating. And so he was carrying on a little bit and that sort of stuff, and then of course he went to the side and he sat down, and then his demeanor started to change. He looked different. I was clicking my fingers in front of him. His eyes weren't blinking. He wasn't responding. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have to at least move him from the particular spot that he's in and get him to somewhere where there's more light, because it was at night time. As soon as we moved him, he became quite angry, quite aggressive, and then he just stopped again, and there was no look at all. So we managed to move him outside. As soon as we got outside the building, he was fine. He seemed to go like, well, what am I doing here? So excuse me. So that was one part that was not so great. Other parts where people have there was one lady that she went in, she's like, we went into a particular mental asylum sounds like you do it every day. And I walked in through the hallways, and she sat down, and we were doing some work here and there, and investigating different parts of it. And then suddenly she kind of just again became quite distant. The breathing's the biggest thing I found, is when a change in somebody, when they feel they're being affected by something. I don't know what it is, but some people really kind of turn, and it's often the breathing and what they dissociate. You can see in their face, particularly if you know them quite well. And so she's sort of just distant, and then started to laugh. And she couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, what, hello. And again, clicking the fingers, it was like I was not even there. And she's laughing and laughing. So that was a positive experience of somebody going through. Again, same thing, had to move her outside. As soon as we moved her outside, she was fine. And again, that this, hang on, I was inside, now I'm outside. I don't have any idea of what happened between then and now, sort of thing. So there have been goods and bads in the past.
So there were people that didn't attempt to use any spiritual protection, and has led to their demeanors being changed or being affected by the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, had they used, I mean, you don't necessarily believe in it, but do you think had they used it, or was it just that investigations can be quite emotional, can't they?
Oh, of course. There's some people that can walk into a room and feel the emotion and of something that had been left behind. I think even as people as we are today, you can go into a room and feel that an argument has happened, and that's from people that are still alive. Yeah. There are some people that can really feel it more than others. And I think it's interesting that both those people didn't do any spiritual protection, but at the same time, they got so much out of their experience that it actually ended up being a really positive thing. It opened their minds up. Okay, so what really did happen? Is there something going on? Was it something in me from a mental health perspective I might need to look at, or is there something else going on where there was a certain set of circumstances that have happened? And it's almost like, as I call it, the paranormal lasagna. It's almost like this layer of different things, and then you have this most amazing meal, which is a paranormal experience. And that's something that it changes you. It really does.
So could you just say that while you don't see a need to do any kind of spiritual protection, but you still have to prepare for yourself when you walk in your door, because it is emotional. You can't just go in there nonchalantly and screaming and just carrying on. Go in there and accept that you're about to do an investigation in something that might be a little bit off the wall.
Yeah, if you've done your research beforehand, you'll already be somewhat prepared. And of course, it takes experience as well. I'm for myself, I lean towards not wanting to know the historical details of a location while I'm investigating. That could be multiple times, because that then skews what could possibly happen when you're out there on that location, where you get information and you start to run with a particular direction that may not even have been there at all. I do believe there at least needs to be one person on the team that does know the history of it, but doesn't say anything to anybody, but makes notes of it. And that towards the end of the investigation, then you're actually able to correlate if there's anything at all. Because again, we're looking at the possibility of afterlife. We don't really know it's there. Doesn't mean there has to be something tragic that happened on that land or in that building for something to originate. We don't know. So yeah.
So it's for you. Your advice would be prepare yourself. You don't necessarily have to use spiritual protection unless that's your thing.
Yep.
And just be prepared for what's about to happen.
That's it, and enjoy it. That's what we're there for. Yeah, and try and stay awake. It's terrible.
That's true as well. All right then. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for clearing up the reason why you don't use spiritual protection, even though it's in the article in the bottom, and we've put that down there. It's right next to the subscribe button, which everyone can obviously do. So anyway, thank you, Beth, and we'll see you next time.
Excellent. Thank you.